information out into your neighborhood, into your community. You are going to publicize who the consultants are, where they've worked before, how much they're getting for this plan that they've just changed the names and street names on. It's the same as Hanoi Center Regional Plan 2035. Defund those consultants. Let's fire them now. What are your planners doing? There's nothing getting built. Why are you paying consultants? What is going on here? You get your local paper. You read that rag. You start to recognize what it is that's going on in your town. What they call it, sustainable communities initiatives, sustainable strategies, whatever it's called, you start to know because you are reading it every day. You go down to the council meeting, you stand up with this guy who's getting ripped off. He doesn't know you, you don't know him, you stand with him. You give him your card, you connect. You go to another town, you go to Manchester, you hear they have a meeting, they're going to try and kick Ickley out. You go there, you participate. You are an American. I don't care, I told you I'm a liberal Democrat, I don't know if I mentioned that. You know, this isn't, I'm not wearing gang colors here, I'm not wearing your gang colors. This is a red, blue, purple American issue. This is not a left-right issue. This is an American issue, okay? So, we need our legislators to assist us. In Alabama, right now, SB 477 has passed and been signed into law by the governor. That is the, if you can believe this, it's called Due Process for Property Rights Law. I mean, come on, didn't we already have that? But I guess not, because they have to say no infringement on private property rights with policies that are traceable to Agenda 21. It says it right in there. Right in there. No money to or from any non-governmental organizations that are named in Agenda 21 or traceable to Agenda 21. That passed, signed into law. We'll see. I'm sure it'll be litigated, and we will see. We need more of that. And you are here in New Hampshire, where Ann Cartwright and others sponsored that bill, 1634 was it? And now it's a study bill, and we're going to study up real good on what Agenda 21 is all about, because this is a fight for the hearts and minds of our country. That's what this is. You have to be tough. You got to be strong, because you're going to come up against communitarianism, where they will shame you and they will embarrass you and they will lie about you and they will mock you and they will put things about you that are not true in your local newspaper, and they will try and make you lose your job. And all of those things have happened to me personally. And I tell you that I never had a second thought, because this is what it takes. You have to do this in order to preserve your country, because we have to hold on to it right now. So you want to link all these partners together, you want to use visuals, you want to get young people involved. How about giving a $250 prize to anyone at your junior college, your high school, your college, who comes up with a 5-minute video on how Agenda 21 is impacting you here right now. And you know, like you put on a film festival, you show these 5-minute shorts, you give an award, you have an awards banquet, get people involved, bring people in, you want to educate people. Make it safe for those who are participating in this and don't want to. You have to have compassion. We're all, you know, it's hard to recognize this stuff. It's painful, especially if you're part of it. Some of us right here might be part of it. It's a very tough thing. You have to recognize it, and you have to look at it, and you have to see what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And sometimes when you see what you're not willing to do and you find that you're a coward, that can be a very painful experience. None of us, you know, I don't think any of us in this room woke up this morning and thought that we would have been somebody who would have put on a Nazi uniform when we got up. Every single person in this room thinks that they would have been in the resistance. It's not every day that you get a chance to see what kind of a person you are, but you're getting your opportunity now. We're lucky. We're lucky because we get this opportunity now in this life to see just how brave and how courageous we are as a people. And I know you can do it. All right, that's enough. We're going to do it. Let's do it together. We can do it. And we're going to, if we don't do it, we're going to die trying. Yes. Right, okay, thank you. And you got any questions, I'll answer them. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much. She is alive. Okay, thank you. All right, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. All right, thank you. Yes.
Last night you wrote, you didn't get this particular thing, but last night you read a thing about the definition of wilderness.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot that.
That
yes, sure. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, this is really cool. It's horrible, actually. Thank you for coming, if you're leaving now. Can you believe that? I mean, what's the matter with me? This is intense. I mean, who isn't, right? It's heavy. It's heavy. I wish I was making this up. You know, I really do. I'd go to the beach. Okay, so here it is. What is wilderness? Now, you know, out in my area, we've got a company. They're called the Drakes Bay Oyster Company. They produce 40% of the state's oysters, commercial oysters. They've been doing it for 70 years. They happen to be in the National Park Service area. Now that was created like 30 years ago, so 40 years after they were in existence, this National Park Service came in. And they said, well, you're on a lease. Now you're in this national park area. You're in a lease with the National Parks lands. And your lease is up November 2012. And they said, well, please, you know, we want to extend our lease. But the National Park Service wants to create a wildlife area there. They want to designate it as a wildlife area. So what did they do? They took 250,000 photographs. They went out there on the bay. It's a beautiful bay. They took 250,000 photographs of the Drakes Bay Oyster Company operations without them knowing. They were hoping they were going to be molesting harbor seals out there. So they take 250,000 photos and look through them all. Not a single one shows them molesting a harbor seal or anything else out there. So what do? They deep six those photos. They hid them so that they could then say that yes, the Drakes Bay Oyster Company was in fact detrimental to the environmental health of Drakes Bay. Now I want you to know what wilderness is considered to be. We think we know what wilderness is. We don't. This is not just, you know, like you think you're going to go camping out there. Here's the definition under the United States Department of Agriculture, the National Forestry Service. Wilderness is an area where the earth and its community of life are untrammeled by man, where man himself is a visitor who does not remain.
That's lovely.
That's wilderness, and they want everybody who's in a wilderness area or a designated wilderness area or a potential wilderness area to be out of that area. Now, when you think about wildfires, and you think about the fact that they are not allowing forestry management, and you think about the fact that there are people who own private property within our forest areas, and then you think about forest fires and how people are losing their land because it's been burned out in the West. A huge portion of the West has been identified as wildlands. Go ahead.
You talked about making sure that if there's meetings around that you get to go. I was having a conversation with somebody in the city, found out there was going to be the first Bradford County Regional Planning meeting.
Okay.
So I went, and she had said to me, well, I don't know if it's invitation only. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to call. I'm just going to go. So I went, and when I got there, they said, this is by invitation only. And I said, you mean I can't just sit and listen? And a gentleman said, well, it's not a secret meeting, so I guess you can stay. So I stayed, and they allowed me to be part of the conversation. The most interesting thing was, I took an opportunity to ask them how many here at this meeting, and there was only 15,
Okay.
8 of them were on the planning board. I said, how many of you read that Granite State
Future.
Futures? One man said, I scanned it, and the rest never said a thing. And at the end, I challenged them to go read it from a citizen's point of view, and they need to be paying attention.
Right.
And I said, and it's going to take a lot of us to go to those kinds of meetings. I know where I can get my information now, and I'm going to show up at those meetings, and I'm going to ask.
Yes, there you go. Yes, that's what it takes. This is what it takes, absolutely. Do we have to leave or something?
No.
'Cause,
Keep going.
yeah, I'm here until people want to go. I mean, I'll answer any questions anybody has. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Rosa. I just wanted to say that I was a co-sponsor of the ELKS bill.
Thank
in
you.
the House.
Excellent.
And-
There you go.
and
What is your name?
Our bill went through 3 committees before it got passed by a committee. And 2 of the committees, one of them just said, well, we'll put it on to, a little, group thing. And then the second one, municipal and county just absolutely blew it off. And our Speaker of the House knows how important this is and made sure it got progressed to a 3rd committee. So I want everybody that reads in the Union Leader and all the, the Concord Monitor, the horrible things about our Speaker of the House. Our Speaker of the House gets it.
Great.
And Bill O'Brien gets it.
All right.
That he made sure it went to state and federal. It got passed in flying colors in state and federal. It got passed in flying colors in the House, and then it got kaboshed in the Senate. And our Senate is the enemy at this point in time. We must make them understand.
Right.
So please, everybody.
That's right. That's right. We need to support our elected officials who support us, and we need to get rid of our elected officials who do not support us. You give them an opportunity, you give them the information. If they refuse to act on it, you get rid of them. And you tell them, we will do everything we can to get you out of office because you do not support the people. That's right. Who else has a question? Go ahead.
Are there any other countries that are aware of this, that are starting to fight back?
Yes, absolutely. There are other countries, of course, this is a worldwide movement. And I get, of course, contacted all the time, mainly by people in Australia. Australia is very progressed. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and England, this is very progressed. And, of course, there are people all over the world who are fighting this. This is a real, true grassroots movement, a real, true grassroots struggle. And you are not alone. There are a lot of people fighting around the world.
How many speeches do you make a year?
Well, I have only been home for 4 days in the last few months.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Glenn Beck had this on Friday night. I don't know if you got to see that.
I haven't seen it yet.
You can go to the Glenn GBTV.
Yeah.
A very conservative, but he had several men on who I did not recognize, and they were talking about this. And he is now beating Fox News, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS in their new people watching
Great.
news.
Get me on Glenn Beck.
I will.
I want to be on Glenn Beck. I would love to because that's reaching a lot of people, and I would
He needs
like to
your
do
book.
that. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Numbers convince people. What have you seen in your work previously relative to calculating value of land, or in terms of decreasing property values being confirmed by tax records as a result of regulation? What have you been finding or seeing in that area that you can use to convince people?
Good question. I'll tell you what, one thing you will see in these plans, and you'll see it in this scenic byway, they'll tell you, they will lie to you and tell you that it's going to raise your property value. You'll see this infuriates me as an appraiser. You'll see this in all of these plans, whether it's a redevelopment project or whatever the project is, it always says in there it's going to raise your property values. I ask you, if you have restrictions on your property and the guy next door does not, whose property am I going to buy? Now, I might buy yours eventually if I can't find somebody else's, but I'm going to pay less for yours because I want a property that has less restrictions on it. Now, this, you know, that's just makes sense, right? If I want a property that already has a conservation easement on it, then I will pay less for that property than I would pay for a property that does not have a conservation easement on it, because I can capitalize myself by selling a conservation easement, right? But I'll have to pay more for it. So there's a certain point where you get to where it's not worth it, right? But this is, you know, this is what you're going to see, is that if you're on that scenic byway, you're going to have higher property value. But if I tell you that 6 acres back, deep, from that street edge, from that line, from that roadway, from that right-of-way, you are going to have to preserve the scenic byway, or it's not a scenic byway anymore. Doesn't that make sense, right? What does that mean? If you're the 7th acre back, it's a different story for you. Now, you may want frontage, but hey, maybe that frontage doesn't matter anymore, does it? Because you can't build anything that isn't scenic. Maybe you can build, but it's going to have to look a certain way. Is that going to cost a lot more? How about if you're off that scenic road and you want to build that same kind of thing, but you don't have to put, you know, the little fake stuff all over it to make it look good for me in my view shed as I'm driving by on my way to Maine? Yes, it has an impact. And just like anything, you know, what you could do is paired sales. And it, you know, should be fairly easy. I have not done that for this area, but you can see it in, you know, restricted areas, restricted cities, redevelopment areas in cities where some cities don't have it and other cities do. When you have an urban growth boundary that restricts development to a certain area, the property in that area is going to go up in value. Everything outside of that boundary will probably go down in value. You will find stealth buyers who will go in and buy in those areas when people are not aware that something's going on. They'll go in and buy in those areas and hold, waiting for transition. So, you know, it can work both ways. It just depends on the project. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh.
Which one?
Let's take him first and then you.
Oh, Tom.
Yeah.
In the city of Rochester, 10 miles north, we got comprehensive rezoning that was being forced on us.
Okay.
And it bothered me because of agricultural property. They were taking away the agricultural zone, turning it to rural residential, and you lose 12 uses with your property.
Okay, there you go.
Unfortunately for them, they didn't keep minutes for 9 years of their meetings, and I took them to a right to know.
Yes.
And that was September 20th last year, when I was supposed to get passed. It's still on we're still working on it. But this
Little
is what-
stealth plan there,
Yeah,
little
this
stealth
woke
plan
me
for
up.
9 years.
This woke me up to the Agenda 21. I never heard of it before, but I saw our new urbanist planner. This is where this came from. I
Yeah.
was wondered about this guy since the 90s.
New urbanism, form-based codes, all this stuff, you know, restriction on your use, right? And you're going to have your property, you know, your land rezoned. I mean, this, you know, I really could go on into this quite a bit, but I mean, this is how it works. It's reverse spot zoning is what it is. Go ahead.
Tom and I are good friends.
All right.
And we both speak up at Rochester Public Input.
Excellent.
And we both speak up against this Agenda 21 and against this business. And both of us have been there to many comprehensive rezoning committee meetings, and I particularly asked for less restrictive zoning, not more restrictive, all the time.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to keep hammering on my city councilors. There are 2 of them sitting in this room presently. And I'm going to keep hammering on those who maybe disagree with me. You see that I can't persuade them gently through verbiage. But I'll tell all of you people, if you don't take the opportunity to speak up in front of your elected bodies about this, you will have no one to blame but yourselves when it's shoved right down your throat. Get up in front of those bodies.
I got to respond to that because I'm on the city council.
I didn't point them out.
Sit down, Brian. That's your turn. You don't have to persuade me because you're preaching to the choir.
I know.
The best way to oppose this regional planning is to simply open up the contract. I never heard of Agenda 21 when this Stratford County regional planning proposal came before the City Council of Rochester. I read it. That's all I needed to do. This is a local fight. You don't need to sell Agenda 21.
That's right.
You need to show people that there's no reason to sign a contract obligating a city council to abide by the wishes of an unelected body.
Yes, sir. That's right. That is exactly right. In my book, in that fabulous tome, there's a little piece in there. I spent all my entire life researching, right? And Picayune, Mississippi, they were spending almost $1 million, this little town, for their little comprehensive plan. They were getting the dog and pony show big time from this firm, right? And one of their supervisors said, so they had like 90 people at the meeting, and about 20 of them were speaking out. They were people like us. They were speaking out about what was going on with 20 people, with about 20% of the people there. They were able to turn it. And so the supervisor says, you know what? I don't need to hear about the UN because we're doing this to ourselves right here. This plan is not representative of our town. It's a cookie cutter plan. It's not worth the money. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. And we should get our $787,000 back from this consultant. And we should kick his butt out of town. And we need a lot more of that because we need people to speak out and say, you know what, there's no clothes on that emperor. We are getting hoodwinked here. And the people, I hear this, I meet with supervisors and council people all the time, and they say, Rosa, we need people to come down and speak out because we are alone on these boards. We need the people to show that they are with us. We need to show that to the people who are on the board when we're out there trying to convince them to vote with us. So this is participatory democracy. This is representative democracy. We got to do it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the Dover City Council and I'm a Stratford County Commissioner, and it really is on the local level that this happens. The last 2 years in Dover, I have witnessed the what we call the code. The code is what runs the entire city of Dover. It is what the people's code is and what the council support. And the last city council has diminished the code to individual siloed documents, creating committees in the city that someday will no longer be answerable to the city council, therefore not the people of the city. The master plan, Vision 2023, the last time we did it, in 2007, was run by the city councilors, and we had board speak-out sessions, and people came out. I think mine had about 50 people. From what I understand from the 2023, the speak-outs have produced audiences of less than 20. I don't know, because Rick attended them all. He could tell you I didn't attend these. The city council did not participate in this speak-out session. And the technique that they used, I saw it used 2 other places, and one was at the county. This group came in talking about an issue, and you are given stars to place next to your priorities afterwards. So I just want to say that I knew this was happening about 2 years ago, and I spoke out. The city of Dover actually broke the law. I brought 3 legal opinions to the council, and they would not let me put them into the record.
Wow.
But they could not stop me from reading them into the record. It's local.
There we go. We've got to support our elected officials. We have to. There's one right there.
Okay. The very first thing that's happening to bring it to the local level, Dover right now is the next one, and yes, I'm on the Dover City Council, is that the scenic byway is on our agenda. It was on our agenda for the end of May, and it was tabled because there were a lot of questions that came up. And so it's going to be coming to a workshop. I believe it's the end of June, Catherine, if I'm correct. It's the end of June. The day that it was brought to the Dover City Council, there was a question on the buffer zones. On that particular day, we had a Stratford Regional Planning Commission members there who did agree that there were buffer zones. I also happen to chair the Traffic Advisory Commission, and we had another regional planning commissioner make a presentation that day. And when she was questioned, she said there was no buffer zones.
Uh-huh.
So I've got a couple questions I'm going to have you answer for me. Are there buffer zones or are there not buffer zones first?
In the Dover, in the byway plan?
In the scenic byway.
And it says it's a quarter mile on
That's what I'm
either
saying.
side of the, on either side of the roadway, the right
Yes.
of way.
So that's what I'm saying. So we've had two commissioners, one saying yes buffer zone, the other one saying no buffer
Well,
zone.
what are they calling that? I mean, what are they going to
One's-
use a different
one's
name for it?
existent- No, one's existent, one's non-existent. So.
One says it's only as wide as the roadway, and the other
Yeah,
says it goes
that's
all the
it.
way.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
So
I
the
think
next
that's
question
important, that's an important thing to get clear.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, okay, I have not, I don't know if I've seen that full document, so I think you need to check.
Okay. The next thing is that when you do the other towns, they, Dover is right smack in the middle. We have Rollinsford, Madbury, Durham, and Newmarket.
Okay.
And Dover's kind of a blip in the middle.
Okay.
And what happens to Dover if Dover votes no? And the second part of that
Probably
question.
just sort of implode.
Pardon?
Yeah, I guess you're just not scenic. You're bad. I guess you don't get that money. You're not going to get that federal money.
And how do we find out about the strings that are attached to those grants? Because that's one thing that was sold to us, is you're going to be able to get grant money. But all of us that are in city government know that there's always strings attached.
Sure. Well, you know what I would do if I were if I were in your position? What I would do is I would contact anyone who voted against it in another municipality about 5 or 6 or 8 years ago. And there is one that I came up with on when I was researching this. And I have it sitting open on my computer back in my hotel. It's in, guys in New York, and I can't remember which town it is. It's in the Catskills. And and in fact, I'm on my way to upstate New York, and they are going to have me speak regarding a greenway, which is similar. So this was in 2002, and he was a city councilor and objected. And I'm fairly certain that they have imposed it. I would, if I were you, contact him and find out. The thing is that you are going to be lied to. You're not going to get the truth. When you ask, you know, what kind, they're going to say, we aren't making land regulations for you. And then you say, what makes this scenic and what would make it not scenic? How do at what point do I lose the money? Is there a point at which you do not continue to pay? Do you do an inventory and review and then restrict my use or not restrict my use, but say that you won't continue to give me money for maintenance of this roadway if I approve anything that is not scenic? Those, you know, you need to ask those questions directly of whoever it is that's giving you the money. And then you want a contract if you're gonna, I wouldn't agree to this, first of all. But, you know, but I mean, if you had to, you should get a contract saying that you could build anything you want along that corridor, that you have full control and you will still be getting money because those mills are there and they're going to be there. But I wouldn't take that money. And you know, that's one thing. I know a lot of people have left, but I would like to say this. And that is that when I go and I talk to the legislature tomorrow, I hope there are a lot of legislators there. What I want to say is that it's up to our elected officials that are local and state to turn to the feds and say, no, we will not take this money. And then they need to look at you, the people, and say, are you with us? We have our choice. We can take the money and lose our freedom, or we can do without and stay free. And aren't you live free or die?
Yes.
Two more points, and
Yes,
then
okay.
I'll sit down and give somebody else a chance. I really
Okay.
had a list of 16, but
I'll review that later.
for communities that have signed on to this, do they have the option to withdraw.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you need to review that more. I am not an expert on the scenic byways.
Okay, and the last